Welcome everyone to Hard Truths. Today's topic, breakup brutality. I'm your host, Daddy Danny, and today we're diving headfirst into one of life's most raw and challenging experiences, breakups. This isn't your typical sugar-coated relationship advice show. Today, I'm serving up a mix of brutal honesty, insightful facts, and a whole lot of tough love. All in a conversational, no-frills style. So if you're ready for some hard truths, grab a seat, settle in, and let's get started. Breakups are messy. They're painful, unpredictable, and sometimes downright brutal. But beyond the tears and heartaches, there's a deeper story about growth, self-discovery, and ultimately, freedom. Now, I know a lot of you out there have faced this head on, and some of you might even be nursing a fresh wound right now. Today, I'm here not to sugarcoat things, but to provide real, actionable insights into why breakups matter and how they can become a catalyst for personal transformation. Let's start with a fundamental question. Are breakups the end of everything? Or are they really a necessary reset button in our lives? On one hand, there's a view that every breakup is a catastrophic failure, an indication that something was so deeply wrong that the relationship was doomed from the start. On the other, many argue that breakups are opportunities, a chance to reevaluate, learn, and build something even better. And in my experience, and backed by various psychological studies, breakups are rarely black and white. They're complex events that force us to confront our vulnerabilities, and in doing so, help us grow. A recent survey of relationship trends show that while many people initially feel devastated, a significant number eventually describe their post-breakup period as one of the most transformative times in their lives. It seems that the pain we feel isn't just an end, but also a beginning. A painful yet potent beginning of self-improvement. So, I'm leaning towards the idea that a breakup, as harrowing as it is, can ultimately be a reset. A chance to shed the old and welcome the new. When you're in the midst of a breakup, do you see it as a catastrophic end of your story? Or as a tough, necessary pivot that propels you into a better chapter? I'd love for you to think on that. Ultimately, I believe it's the latter. A brutal, transformative reset that paves the way for personal growth. Now let's break down what breakups really are. At its core, a breakup is more than just a romantic split. It's a collision of expectations, realities, and often unmet needs. Whether you're on the receiving end or have initiated the split yourself, the aftermath is a blend of grief, anger, relief, and sometimes even hope. Let's get into some interesting facts. Studies have shown that the brain reacts to breakups in very similar ways as physical pain. When you lose something or someone important to you, your brain literally lights up in areas associated with physical hurt. This isn't just poetic metaphor. It's neuroscience telling us that our emotional connections are deeply wired into our biology. But here's the question. Is a breakup always a failure? Or can it be seen as a recalibration of your life's priorities? On one side, there is the tendency to view breakups as a defeat, a personal failure, a sign that you couldn't make it work. The perspective is fueled by society's obsession with forever and the idea that lasting love is the ultimate achievement. However, there's another side. Breakups can also be seen as essential recalibrations. They force us to examine our values, our expectations, and even our self-worth. Instead of seeing the end of a relationship as a personal flaw, It can be understood as a necessary pivot that helps us refine what we truly want out of our life. I'm going to side with the idea of recalibration. It's hard to accept in the moment, but the scientific evidence and countless personal stories suggest that pain of a breakup often leads to deeper self-understanding and growth. In other words, while the breakup feels like a failure at first, it really is a raw opportunity to realign with your true self. Now let's talk about a battle that plays out in the wake of a breakup. The clash between emotional honesty and romantic idealism. How many times have we been fed the notion of soulmates and perfect matches? That picture of a flawless fairy tale relationship is a hard myth to live up to. And when reality hits, a person who once seemed perfect turns out to be inconceivably different. The disillusionment can be devastating. Here's an interesting tidbit. Many literary works and modern movies have romanticized the concept of doomed yet beautiful love. But if you peel back the layers, you realize that these narratives rarely capture the messy, unglamorous truth of what relationships really require. Hard work, compromise, and sometimes the courage to let go. Now consider this question. Should we hold on to romantic ideals even when reality tells us otherwise? Or should we embrace a more brutally honest view of our relationships? On one side, clinging to those ideas can provide comfort. They promise that there is someone out there who completes us, that love is meant to be perfect, and that every setback is temporary. But here's the hard truth. Romantic idealism can sometimes trap us in a cycle of unrealistic expectations. It can prevent us from seeing the red flags and the practical challenges that define any relationship. I'm here to advocate for emotional honesty. It might not be as comforting as a fairy tale, but it's more empowering. Recognizing the imperfections, both in ourselves and in our partners, allows us to make decisions based on reality rather than fantasy. It might be painful to confront, but facing truth head on is a first step to genuine growth and eventual happiness. In the wake of heartbreak, do you find solace in romantic ideals? Or do you think it's better to confront the raw, unvarnished truth of what really happened? Personally, I'm all for stripping away the fluff and accepting the imperfections of life. Moving on. Let's address a critical element in the post-breakup journey: personal responsibility. It's easy to get caught up in blame, pointing fingers at your ex, circumstances, or even fate. But here's the hard truth. At some point, you have to own your own part in the story. That doesn't mean all the blame rests on your shoulders. Relationships are a two-way street. Acknowledging your role is the first step towards healing. There's a wealth of research indicating that self-reflection after a breakup can lead to significant personal growth. Instead of wallowing in regret or self-pity, taking a hard look at your own behaviors and decisions can be incredibly liberating. It's not about self-flagellation. It's about learning. What patterns need to change? What boundaries should you set moving forward? So here's a crucial question. Is it more beneficial to focus on assigning blame for the breakup? Or is it to redirect that energy towards self-improvement and self-love? On one side, dwelling on blame can feel justified. It can provide a temporary sense of relief. It wasn't my fault, they say. Or you might say. But that approach often leaves you stuck in a cycle of resentment and bitterness. On the other hand, channeling your energy into self-improvement helps you build resilience and sets you up for healthier relationships in the future. I'm firmly on the side of self-love and accountability. Sure, It's tough to admit where you might have faltered, but doing so empowers you to grow. Instead of being defined by your mistakes or by what went wrong, you can redefine yourself by the steps you take to move forward. Let's take a minute here. Think about a time when you were quick to blame someone else after a setback. Now imagine if you'd taken a step back, reflected, and used that experience as a lesson. Not only would you have grown, but you'd also be better prepared for what comes next. After a breakup, do you find yourself stuck in a blame game? Or can you shift your focus to cultivating self-love and personal growth? I encourage you to lean into the latter. It's the only way to truly evolve. Alright, let's get to the part where we discuss rebuilding. After the emotional storm of a breakup, the prospects of starting over can seem daunting. Should you jump back into dating? Should you isolate yourself until the pain fades away? There's a lot of conflicting advice out there. And today, I'm going to share some no-nonsense strategies for moving forward. First, let's address the popular notion of diving back in as quick as possible. Some people swear by it, claiming that distraction and new connections help heal old wounds. And yes, sometimes fresh company can boost your mood, at least temporary. But here's the brutal truth. Rushing into something new rarely gives you space to process your pain and learn from the experience. It can lead to a cycle of rebound relationships that never really are addressed. Think about the underlying issues. Studies on emotional recovery consistently show that taking time to heal is crucial. Engaging in self-care, seeking therapy or counseling, and even rediscovering old hobbies can play a big part in your recovery process. This is about rebuilding your identity as an individual rather than as a part of a couple. Now let me ask you this. Should you jump back into dating as a way to escape the pain? Or take deliberate time to build yourself before seeking out new relationships? On one hand, immediately dating might seem like a quick fix, a way to prove that you're still desirable, that you can still move on. But on the other hand, if you don't take time to truly heal, you risk carrying forward unresolved issues into that next relationship, repeating old patterns, and setting yourself up for future heartbreak. I'm advocating for deliberate, sometimes slow, process of healing. It might not be as glamorous as the instant rebound, but investing time in yourself pays off in the long run. When you're truly ready, when you've confronted your pain, learned from your mistakes, and rebuilt your self-worth, then stepping back into the dating scene becomes an empowering choice rather than a desperate escape. When faced with the urge to quickly find someone new after a breakup, do you think it's more beneficial to seek immediate distraction or to invest time in healing and rebuilding your identity? For me, nothing beats the long, sometimes painful journey of self-recovery that ultimately leads to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Let's pull back and look at the overarching lessons. Every breakup prompts some big questions. What did I learn about love, about myself, and about what I want from my next relationship? It's easy to see a breakup as a personal failure. But the truth is, each ending offers a chance to redefine what success looks like. Maybe it's setting better boundaries, rediscovering neglected passions, or finally realizing that being alone doesn't equal being lonely. So what does a healthy relationship look like after a painful breakup? And how do you ensure your next chapter isn't just a repeat of the past? Some say you should start fresh with a clean slate, fully trusting that love will be different the next time. Others believe you should build on the lessons of the past, knowing your triggers, boundaries, and non-negotiables before diving in again. I'm a fan of blended openness with wisdom. Keeping your heart open is important, but doing so without the insights you've gained is like sailing without a compass. Ask yourself the tough questions. Am I happy on my own? What am I willing to change? What will I no longer tolerate? Your journey after a breakup isn't just about finding someone new. It's about redefining your relationship with yourself. As we near the end, let's remember the hard truths we've covered. Breakups aren't just painful endings. They're also windows of opportunity for growth and self-discovery. They force us to face our vulnerabilities, challenge our romantic fantasies, and rebuild from the ground up. Healing isn't about finding a quick fix. It's about taking time to understand what went wrong, owning your part in it, and learning to love yourself in the process. Here's one final question to carry with you. How can you transform the pain of a breakup into fuel that drives you to become your best self? By confronting the truth, no matter how brutal, you empower yourself to build a future defined not by your past failures, but by the courage to evolve. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into raw, unfiltered reality of breakups. I hope today's conversation gave you some valuable insights. If it resonated, feel free to share it with someone who might need that tough love. And remember, healing is a journey, not a destination. This has been Hard Truths. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and never settle for anything less than the truth.